welcome back to my channel. It's been a hot minute, it's been a while. Good to see you. Today we are going to be doing a cheeky little fun wrap-up video in which I'm going to talk to you about all of the books I read in July, which is, drumroll please, 8 whole books. Yay! Yay! 8 books, I did it. I'm just gonna dive right on in and start talking to you about the books that I've read, which is super fun, super cool, super exciting. The first books that I read was Somebody Loves You by Mona Arshi. I picked it up purely based off of the cover. It is literally so stunning. I thought it was gorgeous. And the inside sleeve piqued my curiosity. In this book, we follow a young Indian girl named Ruby who decides to give up talking at a young age. We follow her throughout non-linear chapters that are named after a moment in time or a memory to understand her life and her family dynamic. We see the struggles of not only her but her mother, whom has a mental illness, and how the rest of the family try to adapt and help in different ways. Right, the premise. Num num num, give it to me. I was so ready for like a philosophical exploration into kind of the power of language, why Ruby has decided not to speak. Now, unless I missed the mark completely, I really didn't get this from that book. Maybe it's because I went in with those expectations and that's just not the direction that the book was meant to go in, and that's completely fine. But because I think I was expecting that, I found myself not really connecting to the characters as much as I wanted to. Maybe it was due to how the chapters were written and kind of things like that, but for me I just didn't feel anything towards the characters, which also made me have like a little bit of a lack of disinterest. So with the lack of disinterest and kind of like the vagueness of the storyline, because it was non-linear and it was little snapshots in time, there wasn't really like a beginning, middle and end, I found it really hard to connect with and also to concentrate on. So yeah, I'm very well aware of how amazing the writing was. I thought it was very poetic, which is apt considering that Mona Arshi is a poet and I believe this is their first book. So that was very lovely to read. Like, I really enjoyed the description of things. Really can't fault the actual writing style itself. Just maybe the storyline just didn't hit its mark with me because I felt like there really wasn't much and I just had a lot more expectations. I wanted more of the why. I wanted more of an analysis on language and the choice behind stopping speaking. It just made me a little bit irritated at some of the characters at some points as well. For me, it just missed the mark, but I still found it enjoyable and I finished it, if that makes sense. I gave it a 3.5, so I clearly had an okay time. The second book I read was Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is the 4th volume, so this is the last one that is out currently. I know that there's a volume 5 in the works, which is super exciting. Can't wait to get my hands on this one. I gave this a 5 out of 5. I'm not going to explain it too much, purely because it is the 4th volume, but basically we follow the storyline of 2 young boys who are in a relationship with each other. We have Nick and Charlie. Nick is bisexual and Charlie is gay, and it is all about their gay/queer experience in school. We get to follow them as kind of like our main protagonists in the story, but we see a lot of other queer joy and queer representation throughout the books in the forms of like their friends, which is super lovely and wholesome to read about. It is literally like a hug. I would highly recommend it. I would just say in terms of volumes 3 and 4, just as some content warnings, there is a mention of eating disorders and self-harm. This one very much delves into that and I thought it was super important, and it's written in a way which is super respectful but also helps with awareness. So I would highly recommend it still, but just be aware before you go into it that that's kind of like what is included in the book. The next book that I decided to read was Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. So this is a sapphic romance novel in which we follow Delilah Green, who is an edgy professional photographer who has just been hired for her estranged stepsister Astrid's wedding. She has no plans in sticking around due to their past, but then she bumps into Claire, Astrid's best friend, and decides that there is some fun to be had in the form of a bet. So this is like to wind up her stepsister. However, Claire and Claire's daughter begin to charm Delilah, and it doesn't seem to be such a silly little wind up as what Delilah intended it to be. So basically we just follow kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It starts off with Claire not recognizing Delilah in a bar and hitting on her, so we know that there is instant attraction there anyway. And it's really fun to read that like bubble up and kind of explode, I suppose. The reason why they don't get on, Astrid, who is a stepsister, and Delilah is because when Delilah was very young, her mother passed away, and then her dad remarried, and that was Astrid's mother. And then when Delilah was 8 years old, her dad passed away, so then she was adopted into that family. The grief and the loss at such a young age really affected her, and because Astrid and Astrid's mother were also going through like a grievance period, nobody really knew how to handle each other, so there was a lot of like miscommunication and a lot of like ostracizing and isolation. So basically Delilah always felt like the odd one out, and a lot of like Astrid's friends, including Iris and Claire, that's like the friendship group, would kind of like say not nice things about Delilah and really make her feel not accepted into this world. So Delilah ran away to New York and never had any intentions of coming back until she was hired for the wedding. So that's how they've become back into each other's lives. And what I really appreciated about this book was not only was it a wonderful sapphic romance, like I loved reading about their relationship, the build-up was great, but we also got to see family dynamics. There was a lot to do with like the sisters, which I really enjoyed reading about, and how their relationship like blossomed and bloomed, and like the trials and tribulations of that, and like still including like the important topics such as the loss and grief that they felt at the time. Alongside this, we also have a bisexual character who has a child. It was a teen pregnancy, and the inclusion of that was very interesting. Like, I've never read about that in kind of like an adult romance book before, and I just thought it added a really nice new layer to the book and just raised some really cool points, and was just a good plot point. Like, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, she has a kid anyway, it was like, oh, Claire has a kid and the kid is included. Like, it was very well done. The writing wasn't anything too kind of crazy or phenomenal. It didn't blow my mind. It was very predictable, but I enjoyed the predictability of it. Like, I had a good time, and I think the book sets you up to predict it, do you know what I mean, with knowing that there's attraction there initially. I had a really fun time. It was a good read. I enjoyed myself, and I really enjoyed the fact that it was sapphic. I don't read a lot of sapphic romances, even though I am queer myself. It is something that I definitely want to read more about, because I definitely read a lot of straight romances, which again isn't nothing that I'm opposed to. I would still like to read about other parts of my identity as well. I'm glad that I read it. I believe I gave it a 3.75. I think that's what I gave it. The next book that I read was Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So this I read for the Backpackers Book Club, which is a podcast that me and my friends have, Sid and Cam. We try to post once every month. It's been a bit hectic for the past few months. We've all been very busy. This episode hopefully should be coming out very soon. It was fun. It was very interesting. It's a book that I'm glad that I have read so that I can talk to other people about the books and my thoughts. Like, my thoughts are still formulating, and I really enjoy that about this book. Being able to still have kind of like deep conversations surrounding a book that I am unsure of is a telltale sign that I actually like absorbed a lot of it. Sometimes I have difficulty absorbing things from books, but this one really did pique my interest. I found it so interesting. We basically follow this man called Piranesi, who is in the house. There is no explanation as to why, when, who, what. Like, there's no given circumstances. We just have to accept that he is in the house with one other person called the Other, and they are researchers who go around and catalogue everything, and we read the book throughout Piranesi's catalogues and journals of their experience in the house. They have a meeting with the Other, I think like once a week on a Tuesday, just to kind of like correspond, share findings, do all this. And in this book we read about how Piranesi survives, what they value about the house. There's infinite statues, infinite halls in this house, and we follow like this person Piranesi cataloguing the house. And then all of a sudden these kind of like notes in chalk start getting like written out on the walls. We see Piranesi start to like question things and question the Other and the Other's intentions. From this it spirals as we see Piranesi become more intuitive and kind of like questionable, and goes on, I don't want to say an adventure, but it's the only word I can think of right now, but goes on an adventure of self-discovery and becoming more independent from the Other and figuring out what really happened and what the house actually is. And we find out along in the same time. Kind of feels like a mystery, not like a murder mystery, but like one where you need to connect the dots with like the red string.
Pepe Sylvia, this name keeps coming up over and over again. Every day Pepe's mail's getting sent back to me. Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia. I look in the mail, well, this whole box is Pepe Sylvia.
It took me a while to read, even though it's quite short, but I think I was just kind of trying to get my head wrapped around the scenario. My thoughts and feelings. I know so many people that literally loved this book so much and they were so excited to hear my thoughts on it. I'm neither here nor there on it. I enjoyed like the simplicity of some of the repetition. Like it did give me like a sense of calm. What I didn't enjoy was the ending. Was the plot twist. It wasn't my cup of tea, and that's okay. I accept and I see what this book tried to do for me, but didn't work for me, but clearly worked for so many others. So I'm not gonna sit here and get on a soapbox and start nattering on about that. It doesn't matter, because for some people it worked, just for me it didn't. So that's my 2 pence piece. I say a lot more about kind of like these thoughts in depth in the podcast, so I will leave the link down below if anybody's interested. They're kind of like what I'm gonna say right now. I think I give it a 3. The next book that I want to talk about is, I can't talk about it, sorry. So this book, Dating Dr.Dil by Nisha Sharma, is the Backpackers Book Club book pick for August. I read it in July. I knew what it was. I picked it up, I read it, I devoured it. I can't really share too much of my thoughts other than my expectations for love, my expectations for romance books is on a whole new level. I'm just putting that out there. This was amazing. Chef's kiss. Okay, we're on to the last 3 books. And it is a series that I've completed. It's been a roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster, guys. The Crule Prince series by Holly Black. So I have read The Crule Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. Basically what I did is for the last 2 books, I rented them from the library because I didn't want to buy all of like the whole book series, because I gave Crule Prince 3.5. Like I really wasn't that taken on it, and I think after reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, I was like, nothing can live up to the description that I expect, the romance that I expect. Like just nothing compares. Nothing compares. I was like, I'm not gonna pay for the series because A, I don't have the money, B, I've got a library card, let's use it. You know, I picked them up from the library, thank God they had both of them in. The more I read, the more I got into it, you know? Like I really got into it. I found the writing very basic. It is YA, so like nothing too like crazy happens in terms of like romance. I found some of the plot twists got me. Put my hands up, they got me. The literal last plot twist in The Queen of Nothing, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about it. What? A, predictable. B, so anticlimactic. D, E, F, G, underwhelming. Like I was so disappointed with the ending. Bit bait, if you ask me. Really didn't do it for me. But the rest of the book, oh my god, I was obsessed. In like but not in like a 5-star way obsessed. I think it was just because I was having a good time. I really was craving fantasy at the time that I picked this up, and you know, it fed that craving. It itched that scratch. So I was really happy that I've picked it up. I now understand all of the references I see on my TikTok, on my Bookstagram page. Like I get it. I've really not said anything about these books. I've not given you a plot. My brain currently at this point cannot conjure up a coherent plot for you. It is all about a mortal twin, like there's a half mortal, half fairy, 2 twin mortals, and it starts off with this big bad fairy guy Maddox killing their parents because they ran away from fairyland. No, just fairy, sorry. Just fairy. And he's come to reclaim what is his. So he takes all of the sisters back to fairy and they grow up in fairy. And it's kind of like about their survival. And the twins, so the main character is Jude. We follow Jude. The romance is with her and Carden, who is one of the young princes and who, by the way, heavily bullies her. And he, in one of the books, is like, I only did it because like, plot. Sorry, spoiler alert, I only did it because like I didn't want to fancy what I did. And then being like, oh yeah, well like I made sure that you didn't die. Oh great, but you made sure I had loads of trauma. That is one of the big things that I can't get over. Why would you fancy him? Why? He is honestly, babes, you've got trauma and PTSD, the whole shebang from this boy, and you still go there. But I didn't question it. I just rolled with it. I knew it was gonna happen. I knew I didn't like it, but we moved on. I'm very aware that behaviour is not good in real life. Also, doesn't exist. Fairies aren't real. so it's not that deep. Do you know what I mean? I had a good time. I found it really interesting. Like I said, some of the plot twists, I was like, my favourite out of the three of them was probably The Wicked King. For me, that was the most plot driven, but a lot of things happen in it. The plot twists that occur took me by surprise the most in that book as well, which is what I needed in these books, because I think without those plot twists I really would have given up on them, but that's what made them really enjoyable for me. So I'm glad I've read them. Nothing too crazy, nothing too mind-blowing, but I think I gave Cruel Prince 3. I gave the one that I just said was my favourite but can't remember the book's name, The Wicked King, The Wicked King, I gave 4, and I also believe I gave The Queen of Nothing 4, but I feel like that's a lie. I feel like I'm going to take it back down to 3 because the ending really just hasn't sat well with me. Really hasn't. I really wanted something different, and that's okay. I've really enjoyed this reading month. I've had a well of a time. I have literally devoured all of these books as well. I've just been giving myself breathing space in between, which is definitely what I needed, and also I was waiting for stuff from the library for a while, which so fun. But I'm so glad that I ended on The Queen of Nothing. It really rounded off my month with a series. This is literally maybe the second series that I've ever completed. I feel very accomplished. I feel very excited for August, and yeah, very excited to continue reading at the pace that I am. I'm just having a good time, and I hope that you guys are too. So that is my wrap up. Sorry, my voice is so hoarse, I've realised. It's very late at night. That's kind of everything. Hope you guys are doing well. And if you made it this far, thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate it. And I guess I'll just see you in the next one. Okay, sick. Bye!